In this segment of my rock art class, we're going to paint some veggies and fruit. So after you've gathered all your supplies and your rocks, of course, you can watch this entire segment and then rewind and then pause your video at each painting stage to give yourself time to dry your paint, and then you can proceed to the next step. Now, as a reminder, the big eyes is what makes our characters look really great and fun. So this is a potato with a different shape of eye than what we're doing right now, but it gives you an example of what we can do. So if you wanted to do this potato, you can do this type of eye. As well, as a reminder, when you want to paint two shades of one color, you take a portion of your color, like for instance the red, and you put a little bit of white, and that changes and makes the shade a little bit different. So you'll get the gist of that as we go along. Now this one has the lemon, of course, as you can see, and I painted this one, the background all yellow in the back, then I dried it, which is what you should do. And then, because each stage needs to be dried, so you dry the back, then you come to the front and paint all your yellow. And to define your face, make a definition, I used a darker gold and the point of the lemon to make the lemon look more realistic but funny at the same time. And we did the eyes as if they were squinting, and of course the mouth and the tongue. So this would be an example of the lemon. So here's your potato and the lemon. Now next is your banana. And what I did is I painted all the back first green, then I let it dry, then I turned it over and did the green, and then I shaped out the banana. And once the banana is dried, and I put a little bit of dark gold here to define the banana shape. And so we're going to do the eyes now, and I'm hoping that you can see it. I'll show it to you at each step. So we're doing the eyes. I did the center of the eye with a black Sharpie. I find for this type of thing, the Sharpie is the easiest to do. So you can see that, right? See that? The eyes are really great there. And then I'm going to do the center of the black for the pupils. I did a little dab of white. And for the eyebrows, I'm using a little bit of brown. I'm hoping that my video can get to the very end, so I'm doing the easiest ones first. And I'm going to do the mouth with a Sharpie to make it faster for you. And usually after we do a character, after everything is dried, there's nothing wrong with waiting till it's dried and then doing some touch-ups. There's nothing wrong with doing that. So here is the mouth of the banana, and I'm doing the tip of the banana. You know where you open up your banana? Bananas are delicious. So I should have used a bigger brush, but I'm just using this as an example. And I'll go over this again once it's dried for a second coat. So that's your banana. Okay, that's your banana. And of course, once everything is dried, I always like to put a nice encouraging comment in the back. You make me proud. Jesus' teachings tell us to encourage one another, comfort one another, uplift one another. So I'm going the extra mile and putting encouraging words on our rocks. And this one here I wrote down, oh, I haven't got it done yet. But this one, you are kind. So the next is the apple, the green apple. And when I painted this one, I did the back first, as always, and let it dry. Then I turned it over, and in this one here, I used something a little bit different. I used the light green, the medium green, with a bit of yellow to give it some contour, depth, and definition to make the apple a little bit more interesting. And then I took some dark and put it right here. So you know the indentation on the top of the apple? Though that's where we're going to put our stem. That's our stem for our apple. It's going to be a little bit bigger at the top there. So you see that? Now we're going to do our leaf. I'm going to do two colors at once. I'm going to use the dark, I think. And I'm going to use the light as well to give it some interest. Sometimes you just got to use extra colors to give it some interest there. So that's your leaf, and after that dries, I'll probably put in a little bit of more extra greens. Now, I've got like 4 or 5 brushes on to go here right now. So here's our apple, and I'm going to do the outline of the eyes with white. I'm not so steady as I used to be, but I bet you are when you do your eyes. I bet you're very strong and steady. So here's the circle of our eyes, and I'm going to do the center of our eyes, he or she, we don't know. And I'm going to use paint on this one. See that? So don't forget now to try and take time in between each step and let it dry out so that you won't get paint all over your hands. See that? And that makes the character very... Oops, see? I got paint on my hands already. I usually get quite messy. So I'm going to put a little bit of white show teeth. So there's our apple. And I'm only just doing really simple designs because I don't have the time to get into multiple layers of the apple, but don't you think it's kind of cool? And oh, by the way, after I dried the back, I wrote down, you bring joy. And I bet you bring much joy to your parents and your sisters and your brothers and nannies and your puppies. Okay, so on this one, again, I painted the back and I let it dry. So we're going to do the leaf, or the leaf on the top. And so there's the leaf on the top. And when I painted the orange, I put in a little bit of dark orange here just to give it more definition of the carrot. So now we're going to have fun putting our big eyes in. I may not finish my last vegetable. I'll start it, but on our next section, I'll probably show you the finished product. So here's our eye. So see our eyes starting to form? Isn't that cute? See our two eyes? And I'm going to, instead of letting it dry because we don't have time, I'm going to use the paint instead of the Sharpie. And when it dries, I'll do the second coat so it'll look a lot nicer. That's one good thing about this type of paint, is that you can let it dry and go back and make it look really awesome. So this is a rough go right now. It's not exactly real pretty yet, but once this dries, I'm going to go in and make it really great. So let's put our teeth on Mr. Carrot. So here's his teeth. And I'm going to give him his tongue. The tongue is shaped almost like a heart. And okay. And again, this is the rough draft, but I wanted to show you what it looks like when it's a rough draft, because it doesn't always look great when you're doing the rough draft, but it'll grow into something very beautiful when you're done. So see that? It's not perfect yet, but it will be. So I'm going to give him some eyebrows. See that? It's pretty rough, but when it dries, I'm going to put a second coat. As well, in our next segment, I will show you the finished product and how beautiful they actually look like. So here's our, oh, and I should have told you what's on the back of that one. You got this. That's a good encouragement. Okay, so on our pepper, I did the back again and dried it, and then I did the front, and as like the carrot is just on the top, but on the pepper, I use the entire rock. Excuse me. So what I'm going to do the eyes first, and then I'm going to show you how I make the definitions in the, I got the white done, but I'm going to do the second coat right now. And I'm making his eyes blue. I don't have blue eyes, but I like blue eyes. I like every color actually. Let's see what we can do here for this guy to make him look great. Maybe I should have gave him brown eyes. Brown eyes are gorgeous too. So we're going to, as soon as I find my black, I'm going to put the center black. And let's see. And I'm going to give him black, big black eyebrows. How's that look? That look pretty good? I think I'll use a Sharpie for a mouth. Sharpie is getting pretty dry. I'll show it to you now as I go about. And I'm going to go over this after everything's dried, like I said before. And I'm going to give it all a second coat so it looks great. So that's the red, but I'm going to give them a little bit more of the brighter tongue there. So you see that? And I encourage you to, like I said, go through the entire video and then rewind and then pause at each section so you got time for everything to dry. And okay, so what I did in order to define this little guy, I did the corner of my brush with one color and the other, and that way you can see the shape of the face of our pepper. Because sometimes pepper have a little bit of orange on them as well as the red. So I'm just giving him a little bit of a shape to make him more interesting. So what do you think of that? You like that? That's just to give him a little bit of depth in his face. Kind of cool. And like I said before, as on the others, I'm going to give it time to dry, then I'll go on the second coat. And on this one I got down, you have great ideas. Isn't that cool? And notice the different types of eyes. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to do it again. And this is my favorite, as always, this tomato. And on the back, I have You Rock. So stay tuned for the next segment.